Before we get to Steve Millington, I just wanted to share with everybody that we need to mention, in fact, after Election Day, when the politicos, we stop seeing a little bit of them and we start getting maybe back to a more normal routine in our lives. We may be seeing Dr. Eric F. Jones in studio again. The last time he was here, the phones rang off the hook. He uses a more traditional approach to wellness, holistic systemic approach. He's been doing this since 1993. Dr. Jones has master's and doctoral degrees in marriage and family therapy. And Dr. Eric F. Jones, he uses methods of alternative healing, naturopathy, medicinal herbs, nutrition, sound waves, intellectual cognitive self-regulation, and apathy to help remedy and manage mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual challenges. He's accepting new patients with evening and Saturday appointments available. Number 731-7178. And of course, you can also find him on Facebook at Dr. Eric F. Jones, and that would be Eric F. Jones, PhD, mental health and wellness therapist, Eric with a C. Steve Millington, I was going to say long time no see, but it's been relatively just a few days.
Yes, just been, we were together on both Tuesday and Wednesday last week.
Had a good, I thought, preview of the election last week. Here we are. You had referenced early voting and the numbers that were turning out when you were here last week. So I walked over to, all right, I drove over, but I walked into the building over at County West last Thursday. And sure enough, there was a line there. I did vote, though. I decided, look, I already know. I mean, I don't think I'm a big surprise to anybody out there that I generally vote for Republican candidates or conservative candidates. So I went ahead and did it. My vote's not going to change before Election Day.
And you know, I don't know what time of the day you went over. I'm guessing it was after the lunch hour.
12:45.
Okay. It's amazing. They have still had the same kind of not overwhelming turnout, but a constant, regular turnout for early voting, more than they have had in previous years. And actually, it doesn't take them by surprise. I mean, they're well prepared and they've got plenty of materials and ballots and everything, so that's not an issue. But it is a little bit of a surprise that so many people are coming in to vote early. And I think some of that stems to the fact that people are really engaged, really excited, wound up in this year's election process. And they're not going to take the chance that for some reason they are unavailable or not able to vote on election day.
This is still a heavily Republican area, so I don't think
Yes, thank you, thank you.
a lot of your work goes into that.
No, just it's everybody else that's involved.
Here's the thing. Around the country, though, we've had a lot of early voting, and then some 22 million people voted early before the news broke Friday about Hillary Clinton. Now, a lot of those people just can't go back and change their
Nope,
votes.
they're done. They're done. And an interesting thing, I saw an interview with Daryl Issa. He is a U.S. House representative from California, and I think he is chairman of the
You know he's doing his job well
House
because the liberals hate him.
House Oversight. I don't know what it is, some committee. Anyway, he loves to take on the liberals and some of their positions, and just he's good at it. He and Trey Gowdy.
Trey Gowdy.
Oh yeah, I like him. If I were guilty, if I were the accused, I would not want him prosecuting me. However, if he was my defense attorney, ooh, I'd love it. But anyway, ISA was saying that in California, over half of the total votes will be early ballot situations, and so he was commenting on this news about.
And a lot of them won't go back to Mexico when they're done, we should point out.
Yeah, he was talking about the break here from the FBI, and he said the problem is so many people are early voting that they waited out about 2 weeks too long to begin this process. And I thought to myself, they waited 2 weeks too long, or they planned it that way so that they could come out before the election and say, "See, we're doing everything that we can, that we are supposed to. We are not taking sides. We are completely impartial, unbiased." But they come out with information that's so late that many early voters cannot respond to it at all.
We have about a minute before the first break. We'll let the caller get either
Okay.
a statement or question in before the break and then get back to that on the other side. You're up next. You're on KLIX.
Good morning.
Good morning. This is the Colonel speaking.
Welcome. We've got two Steves, one on the phone and one in studio with me. Go ahead.
I don't know how much time we have. Are you still talking about the disdain for the White House on the part for the military?
I am. Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Okay, I've got a quick story. I was a very good friend of a senior administrative assistant in the White House who was actually stayed over from the George Bush administration into the first year of the Clinton administration. She was so senior, her office was in the hallway that ran to the White House from the chief of staff in that corridor. So she saw lots of comings and goings. And you know, a lot of times the military comes to officers and come over to the White House for briefings and meetings.
Hey,
And
Colonel, hold on to that thought for a moment. Can you stick around during the break?
Sure.
It's not going to cost you any money. I mean, you're not calling on a landline, right?
No. I don't believe in landlines anymore.
All right. That's Colonel Steve Heil on the telephone with us, an old friend of mine, and we'll let him finish the story on the other end of this break because I think I probably have a pretty good idea of where it's going, and I think you need to hear it. We've got Steve Millington in studio with us as well. Bill Colley on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. It's 41. Steve Millington is the chairman of the Twin Falls County Republican Party. He's joining us in studio. Bill Colley with you as well on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. We had a caller who was listening online and this morning, and that's Lieutenant Colonel Steve Heil, who's, of course, retired from the U.S. Air Force. And he was sharing a story with us just before the break that one of his former co-workers stayed on after the first Bush White House and worked for a time in the Clinton. Well, we're not going to say first Clinton White House. That could be it's a harbinger of things to come we don't want to even consider at the moment.
How about the only Clinton White
The
House?
only Clinton White House. Colonel, you're still there with us, I imagine.
I'm still here, yes.
So she was, you were mentioning during her travails through the hallways of the White House when the Clintons first arrived, and can you pick up the story from there?
Well, I I had retired and gone on to other things, but I waited till about the first 4 weeks into the Clinton administration. I called as my cohort in crime on the president's the Challenger commissions where we met, and she said, "Well, I think I'm running a kindergarten here." She said, "You wouldn't believe what's going on." She said, "These young kids." Staffers are throwing pizza boxes out in the hallway and Pepsi cans, and she says it's atrocious. But then she, not about a month after that, she called me one day and she was just beside herself and said, "I can't believe what I just saw." But she said, "I wanted to stay another year just for my retirement purposes." But she said, "I'm putting my papers in this afternoon." She said, Hillary there was a 2-star Army general walking down the hallway. I mean, whether he's going to the White House or the Oval Office or the Chief of Staff's office, but she was literally outside my doorway. She got in his face, the general, and called him every despicable obscenity you can think of, and probably some that none of us but her know. But in the end, she actually literally spit in his face.
Ooh.
And this is the woman that will be the commander-in-chief of our military. She absolutely despises the military, and the military absolutely despises her. So if she becomes president, she will, what's left of our military, it's already decimated. She'll finish Obama's job of completely destroying the military, and then we are in more than serious trouble.
Well said. Colonel, thank you much for the telephone call. We'll keep in touch. Good hearing from you again. Lieutenant Colonel Steve Heil, when he referenced the Shuttle Challenger Commission, he was being a little humble. He was the administrator. Sally Ride and Neil Armstrong get the credit like as co-chairs, but Steve did all of the heavy lifting. So.
He was the guy behind the scenes that got the work done.
Yes. So we're talking a little bit about what we're looking forward to here with, we're not worried in a place like Idaho about liberals taking control of the state, but if they take some more control in Washington, and there is some concern they could take the House or the Senate, and maybe the House is a little far-fetched.
Yeah, the Senate is maybe a closer run for them, for the Dems. But either way, the Republicans need to control both houses of Congress to counterbalance anything that a potential Clinton could do to this country. And having Republicans in both houses of the Congress with a Republican president, Donald Trump, would lend itself to seeing to it that a lot of important issues get resolved. Now, today in Ohio, I think it's Ohio. Trump is giving a major policy address on what he would do with healthcare, or rather, how he would repeal Obamacare and replace it with a health insurance program that would be funded by insurance carriers, health insurance carriers, and some of the simple things. One major obstacle in all of this thing is that health insurance companies cannot offer the same policy in more than one state because there are boundary lines drawn for a state. I can have a health insurance policy from a carrier that is unique to the state of Idaho. If I moved to Wyoming or Utah or wherever, it's no longer valid. I have to go find a brand new insurance policy. However, with my automobile, I can buy the insurance policy in Idaho, and if I move to an adjacent state or any state, all I do is contact the carrier in the next state, and he said, "Hey, you're good to go." Now your rates are going to change a little bit because in this state we have the following rules, but I don't have to change carriers. I don't. It's almost seamless. The only thing that changed was the address to which they mail me my statement. But if it's a health insurance issue, I'm done. I got to go to a whole new health insurance package in a new state, and that means I run all kinds of obstacles like, am I still insurable? Are they going to require a medical exam? Will there be pre-existing condition? And all the rest of that stuff that when you drop a policy and have to buy a new policy, they put all of these restrictions on that policy. And let's knock that down and get rid of it. You can take your insurance policy across state lines. Blue Cross or Humana or Aetna or whoever it is can offer you the same policy in any state in the country. You don't have to reorganize the world.
And we got to mention today that healthcare exchange signups begin today.
Today.
In Wyoming, they're down to just one choice on the exchange.
Exactly.
Two in Idaho.
And in on Fox Business Channel this morning, one of the hosts there, Melissa Francis, was talking about that the increases in medical health insurance coverage. And I don't remember the state. One of them was Minnesota. It's up 70 something percent. Arizona is up 67%. One state is up over 100%. And I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of that state. But, at a social engagement over the weekend, I was visiting with some friends around a table, and we were just laughing and joking, and they were making fun of me and my politics. And the one guy said, no, they were commiserating with me, and then they're of the same political stripe that I am. And he said, it will only be another 2 or 3 years, and my health insurance costs will be larger than the mortgage on my house.
Yeah. We have a caller with us.
Well, then let's talk to them.
Got a caller on the line with us, and the caller, you're on the air on KLIX with Steve Millington.
22 million people voting already. Why does this United States allow them to vote so long before the election? Why don't we just have a week or 2 weeks? Why do we have to extend it out 6 months ago? This is ridiculous.
You're right. It is ridiculous. And I concur that the state of Idaho opened their early voting, I think it was 2 weeks ago yesterday. And that's plenty. They basically why is it that early voting is a unique event to the United States of America. We don't see the same kind of early voting. That's quote unquote early voting. In other countries around the world, they have an election day, and it's a major day and a major event. Now, let's give them their dues here. In many of these countries, the election process takes place on Saturday and or Sunday, because most people do not are not scheduled to work on weekends, on Saturdays and Sundays. That's a day off
They'd
according
be
to our work
watching
week.
football.
Yeah, I'm going to watch football. So they have their election on a weekend, a Saturday and or a Sunday, and that's when people go to the polls and vote. And maybe that would be a little bit more convenient in this country. Instead of have it on a Tuesday, we have it on a Saturday, and the polls are open all day Saturday. And so maybe we have early voting Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and general voting Saturday. And that's where we are. I mean, it's just like Isa said in California, 50% of the
Right.
votes will be early voting. I beg your pardon, that's obscene.
That's 75% of them from Tijuana.
So, yeah, a big portion of them. So, how do we get around this idea that everybody wants to early vote? Now, the polls have been open for a week and a half in Twin Falls County. I'll probably vote either this afternoon or tomorrow. And that's a week ahead of the general election. But there's probably, well, my mind was made up some time ago, but there probably won't be any additional huge major surprises that would cause me to change my opinion or my designated vote. But in places like California, they've had early voting going on now for 3 or 4 weeks, and Florida has been going at it like crazy for over a month. That's insanity, people. That's pure insanity.
We have another caller with us. Caller, you're on the air at 8:54 on KLIX.
Yeah, good morning, guys. I was online yesterday and I came across a video where it shows the Joint Chiefs are pleading with the military not to join in a revolution against the government if Hillary steals the election. They know what's going on. They know what could come out of all this. Thank you, Bill.
There was,
Thank
of course,
you.
a warning for one general telling the troops, "Don't revolt if this happens."
Yeah.
So I was stunned when I saw that.
Hold the course.
Quick question before we wrap up today. We got about 2.5 minutes. Harry Reid made a comment the other day, and he got dragged over the coals because you referenced Trey Gowdy, saying Gowdy said, "I didn't know Mormons used drugs." He said,
nobody could make that kind of a statement. This is Trey Gowdy. I'm not quoting here. I'm just kind of paraphrasing. Nobody could make that kind of a statement unless they were on drugs.
Here,
referencing Harry Reid.
Reid is a convert to the faith. Did he do it just to get it on his resume? Because I'm reading a lot of internet chatter about people who say, look, you don't vote for someone just because they go to the same church.
I wish that I had more knowledge about Harry Reid's history and background. I know that his wife was a lifelong member of the LDS Church, and that he converted to the LDS Church either just after they married or just prior to their marriage. And so maybe.
But the church does not approve, for instance, of abortion.
Nope.
He does.
The church, I don't think, can control the way individuals react and
same
respond.
way with Roman Catholics, obviously.
Any church is in that same dilemma. We would prefer that they adhere to the doctrines and dogmas of their stated faith and belief, but there's no requirement. It is, after all, a theological expression, and there is no mandatory requirement to adherence.
And you're all too nice because Mitt Romney should have socked him right in the nose after what he did to Mitt.
Yeah. I have often wondered, why didn't Mitt Romney run again? Why did he so adamantly and early say, I'm not going to do it. I'm out of it. Forget it. I'm not going to go there. And I wonder in the back of my mind, two things. I think he figured out, as did most other Republicans, that Hillary Clinton is going to be the Democrat nominee. And it would be real easy to attack her because she's, we have awkward choices this year. We have crude or we have corrupt. And she is the corrupt side of that formula. And Romney I think he's too nice a guy. And maybe I'm being sugarcoating it. Maybe I am naive, but I think he's just, when it comes down to the end
Too
of the,
decent for presidential politics.
he's too decent to display the kind of anger and hatefulness that sometimes is required. It would be nice to have somebody who could administer and direct with strength and conviction and decency. And I think Romney just decided, I can't be all of those things at the same time. Prefer to be a decent person, and I'm going to stay that way.
We want to thank Steve Millington. He's actually going to stick around with us and sit in coming up with a few minutes with State Representative Stephen Hartkin, who is running for re-election, of course. And we have that on the way in just a short while. And
yep, we're going to
Republican Roundtable this
Yep,
morning.
we're just going to keep talking politics here. Don't go away.
We've got, as he said, more on the way. Fox News, though, first.
Oh, we have to listen to those guys?
Yes, that's at 9 o'clock. At least it's not Shepard Smith.
Yeah, that's right.
Not till the afternoon.